Call the meeting to order, please. Welcome, everybody. I guess, Karen, I'll ask you to do roll call, please.
Certainly. Vice Chair Allred. She is absent. Larry Black.
Here.
And you're gonna need to speak up loud. Yeah, you were very quiet. All right. David Langley
Here.
and Eric Simonson.
Here.
Also in attendance, you have myself, the Planning Director, Karen Schmink, our intrepid minute taker, Amy Wolin, and then our compliance specialist, Rick Dieter, is assisting us with the AV, and I think I left out Chair Gloth.
You did, I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have minutes from the last meeting for approval. It's the first order of business here.
I so move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Any other comments, additions, subtractions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. So the third item on our agenda is a public hearing. Specifically, we have Steve Plute has written an application for the designation of historical landmark for the Clara Voss Building, or what we know as the Voss Building. And I do believe per the recommendation of our city attorney, it was recommended that Linda Allred and David Langley recuse themselves from voting on this. So that would leave Eric, Larry, and myself will be the three, which makes a quorum to hear the application for the Voss Building for local landmarking. So I just want to make sure that that gets entered into the minutes accordingly. So,
And then, Mr. Chair, I apologize. I also forgot to recognize that we do have legal counsel available should we need. So City Attorney Nate Williams is also in attendance via Zoom.
oh, okay, great. Great. Okay. So consider this is about recommending approval to designate 209 East Midland, known as the Voss Building, a local historic landmark. A request by Steve Plute, the applicant, and Andrew Nedgen. Thank you. Who is the property owner, and they are both here today. The subject property is located at 209 East Midland with a legal description of lots 7, 8, and 9, block 12, Steffes subdivision of addition number 1 to the town of Manitou Park, now known as Woodland Park, except that part lying within the bounds of Highway 24, County of Teller, State of Colorado, and is zoned Central Business District. And then if we approve this today, it'll move on to a public hearing and go before City Council. And it looks like we have it scheduled for August 20th.
For a public hearing with council.
Public hearing at 6 o'clock. Okay, with that, I would invite Mr. Plute, the applicant, to come forward. Or
If you don't mind, staff would like to present a staff report.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on, Steve.
Okay.
You didn't put that in my notes, Karen.
I apologize. Hang on, and I can't see some of what I'm looking for because of the computer. Try again to share my screen. Come on. Okay, I think we're ready. So,
Okay.
thank you for that. So as announced by the chair, this is a public hearing, a QJ quasi judicial item regarding the potential designation of 209 East Midland Avenue as a local historic landmark. So the address of the property, we've already talked about some of these specifics, that it's 209 East Midland. It's actually at an interesting intersection between Highway 24, Midland Avenue, and Fairview Street. It's a triangular shaped piece of property there. And it was used to be larger in size, and it was adjacent to the railroad right-of-way that ran through there. But with the change from railroad right-of-way to highway right-of-way, they lost some of the land associated with those parcels. So you now have a slightly smaller piece of ground, but with the same building on there. So in the staff report, I made note that this particular subdivision was platted in 1889. So shortly after the original town in 1887. So it is part of the oldest parts of Woodland Park. It is in the Central Business District zone, and Mr. Plute was the applicant. Andrew Wang.
W-I-N-G.
Wing, okay, that's what I thought I heard. Mr. Wing signed the application, so he's consenting to this particular proposal. This is a picture on the left of that building circa 1950. I didn't have many pictures to pick from. In fact, this was the only one to give you a feel of what it originally might have looked like. And even at this point, it's over a decade old from when it was built in 1939. And then on the right, for comparison, is what the building looked like in 2024. So I wanted to make sure you could see pretty clearly the features of the original building versus what it looks like today. And on the 2024 image, there's a little blue dot there on the far right side of that. It's actually right at the seam for where you'd see the addition to the building. So there was a pretty substantial addition done in 1993. So in the application, Mr. Plute put together a lovely history of a lot of the contributions that Ms. Voss made to Woodland Park. And she had quite a hand in a number of things, including dental clinics, soliciting funds to fix the school gymnasium, cemetery cleanup days, sewing circles, and civic affair meetings. And I'm sure he'll go into more details on this, but just wanted to alert folks that these are the things that were part of that application, clearly appear in the staff report also. That's part of what you see around this particular building. The date of the document is 2016, but there is a reconnaissance survey that was done of structures in that Lake Addition area to the city of Woodland Park. So this particular building was part of that inventory, and the date on the inventory form is actually April of 2015. It's interesting to me that they use the cultural resources inventory form. So that's a broad kind of form for any type of potential resource. Instead of actually going into a more detailed architectural inventory form for the building, that would have gone into more detail, things like setting, location, design, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. And those are all criteria that the National Park Service and the state of Colorado uses when evaluating structures for their historic designations. Within that cultural resource inventory form, it does make note of a lot of the basics associated with the building, that it's 2 stories, no style, concrete foundation. It's comprised of stucco and concrete block. There's vinyl single light fixed picture windows, vinyl single light side-by-side sliding windows, and a couple of wood-framed single light fixed picture windows. It has a flat roof with a false front parapet and one small section that is a side gabled asphalt composition roof. There is a concrete block chimney on the east gabled elevation. In terms of any type of a porch, that makes note that there's an uncovered concrete pad, at least in 2015 is what it was. There is a table within that inventory document that identifies this property as eligible for landmark designation. And then on the form itself, there's a box where it talks about the surveyor's ability to make a recommendation from the field in terms of field eligibility. And in that particular block on the form, no recommendation was made, but there is another line that says needs data, and that's what was checked. So in 1939, the original footprint was 954 square feet. And then in 1993, there was a 940 square foot addition that was added, so those are the footprints for those two parts of the building. So it's a pretty substantial addition. And in this particular picture on the slide is the south elevation of the building. You can see much more of that addition on the right side that was added to this building in 93. Within the application packet, the applicant included an AI-generated image of what this building could potentially look like if it was restored. So this slide is to give you a comparison between that current south facade, that's the lower one on the left, and it's the building shown in red. And then the AI-generated image is kind of a light beige color there on the upper right of that slide. The application included 4 different letters of support for this proposal. Those came from the Pikes Peak Historical Society in Florissant, the Teller Historic and Environmental Coalition, which is part of Teller County, the Ute Pass Historical Society and Pikes Peak Museum here in Woodland Park, and then the Victor Heritage Society up in Victor, Colorado. As part of processing this application, it was referred out for comments. It went to the Downtown Development Authority, the Main Street Organization, Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, Teller County Health, Pikes Peak Regional Building Department, the city utilities, city clerk, city manager. So with that, we only got a comment back from the health department, and it was really more of a question than anything else. They were curious about who will restore the building and what the future use of it is going to be. Since this is a public hearing, publication and posting of those hearings were done as required by the city's municipal code and the Unified Development Code. The city adopted a resolution and I can't quite see because of this slide, back in 2003, and that's where we established criteria for evaluating potential historic landmarks here within the city of Woodland Park. So there's 3 criteria. The first one is the structure should be at least 50 years old. The second is that the property is historically significant through one or more of the following items. Its architectural design, association with a historical event, period, or person, its physical impact and location within the city of Woodland Park, and then the potential to provide important information concerning the history of Woodland Park. The third criteria is that the structure should have sufficient original or accurately restored materials that maintain its original historic character. My computer is frozen. So I apologize. I've lost the ability to change slides.
Okay.
God bless the gremlins. So there are findings that were made. And I wanted to note that within the application, the applicant did address these criteria. Unfortunately, he did omit item number 3, that it should, around the more detailed materials and such, that it's has sufficient original or accurately restored materials that maintain the original historic character of.
So you're referring to number 3 on this
Yes.
slide? Okay.
Yes, that was, if you look at the application that was part of your packet, there's nothing that addresses that particular criteria in there. So the findings in the staff report were pertaining to number 1, the criteria number 1, that the Voss building at 209 East Midland Avenue is more than 50 years old, having been built in 1939. With regard to the second criteria, and there's those 4 sub-criteria that are part of that. Even though the applicant addressed all 4 of the sub-criteria listed, the information provided primarily addresses the significance of the property as being associated with a person, Clara Voss, and her contributions to the community. And then the third finding was that the property, as described in the staff report and on that cultural resources inventory form, does not provide documentation of sufficient original or accurately restored materials that maintain its original historic character of the structure. There's concerns that more data is needed and that the replacement of the divided light windows in the original building, as well as a substantial addition on the east side of the original structure, has severely compromised the original historic character. So with that, the recommendation that's in your report is, should the Historic Preservation Committee find that there is sufficient basis for designating this property a local historic landmark, you should move to recommend City Council approve an ordinance designating 209 East Midland Avenue, the Voss Building, with its legal description, as a local historic landmark. So that's all I had for you.
So can we ask you a couple questions at this point?
Absolutely.
Any questions, Eric?
Am I allowed to comment since I'm recused? Comment but not vote?
Well,
Good way.
and I guess we kind of missed that as part of the start of this, that Mr. Langley himself should have recused himself ideally. And then because at one point you were talking about wanting to advocate for this, which, we provided guidance around that. So at this point, you really shouldn't be sitting at the dais. So I don't know what your preference is, because all we do is provide guidance around all of that. But in terms of participating at this point, I would say in terms of running a hearing, you are at a point where you would be talking to staff or asking us questions. The applicant can then make a presentation and then comments from the general public. So I defer to the chair.
So based on the recommendation that we had from the city attorney, is that both you and Linda needed to recuse yourself, so I don't know. But the pleasure is of the group here to let David make a comment or if it's appropriate.
I was suggesting offering a clarification, not a comment, not a point of voting. But
Okay,
unless it's
let's go ahead. What's the clarification?
if I understood you correctly, you had pointed out that the building doesn't overall have the historical character, which is, as you pointed out
Can you
correctly.
speak closer to the microphone, please?
You pointed out correctly that was one of your points that it doesn't overall have the historical character that is normally looked for on it, and that's largely due to the addition, which is a significant size. However, I can tell you partly where that came from, in addition to the owner's desires in 1993, was that the state guidance on additions to historical structures are very strong and not make it very strong in the approach that it does not match or compete with the existing historical structure. It is their intention that it looks different, it is different, and therefore not confused with the historical aspects.
Meaning that it's very easy to tell the difference between.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is a state historical, let's see there, commission. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. The historical, state historical.
Okay.
That's their guidance. My understanding is that's still seems to be the case.
Okay. Thank you, David. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
If I was hearing you right, you mentioned that some of the windows were vinyl and some were wood clad. I'm imagining the ones that are vinyl are on the addition that we're talking about.
I do not know where they are located. I was pulling that information from the inventory form that was
Okay.
done in 2015.
Okay.
So it was just part of what they documented at that point in time.
So you also alluded to on the application, the survey or the surveyor or whoever.
The,
said
the inventory, the survey form, I'm using those terms interchangeably.
Okay, I needed to just understand that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that you sent the packet out for comments and the health department was the only one that responded. So at this point, are we expecting any other comments to come in between now and the council meeting, or that was it?
That should have been it as part of, there was a deadline. I don't remember what
Okay,
it
so we're
was.
not gonna expect any additional comments from any.
Not within that definitive review period in terms of preparing any type of report.
Okay,
So at this point, whatever comes out of this meeting gets added to the staff report that you guys have seen. You know, basically the HPC's recommendation, and then that's what goes to city council. So the documentation that's in that staff report stays as it is
okay,
with the addition of the recommendation from this group.
okay, and also then referring to criteria number 3.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned that that wasn't elaborated on or talked about with the local, with the historical, forget the terms that you used, but it was incomplete, correct?
In the application itself, the applicant did not address that third criteria. And then in my finding, still not going to change. There it goes. In my finding, it actually says does not provide documentation. So, you know, as the properties described, you know, in that resource inventory form, that form itself, because of what it is, and it's not the architectural form, which would have given you more information about the structure. It does not provide documentation of sufficient original or accurately restored materials that maintain the original historic character. So basically, you don't have information around item number 3.
Okay.
So
Does the applicant have an opportunity to go back and add clarification to item number 3 and provide additional documentation?
well, the documentation I'm looking for would have been from that inventory. You know, so that's done by somebody else who's a trained professional around assessing historic structures. So that's not just not available since we never had that type of inventory done.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the next part of that item 3 was where I just brought up my observational concerns about just that there is a substantial addition, and then the changes to the windows. When you've got such the historic side of the building, when you've got such a simple design, any details around the windows become fairly significant. So just that's changed.
Okay,
From
and
the
so,
original.
and if I understand David's comment in that, when you read the criteria on the state level, when you do add on to a historical building, it's a good idea, rather than making it look like it's historical, that you can actually identify it as being different. Holds more weight, apparently. Okay. Anything else, Karen?
You're asking me questions.
I know, but is there anything else for you to add
I do not.
before we? So the next step here would be to ask the applicant to expand on or talk about the application at this point.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Blute.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Steve Plute. I live in Lake George, Colorado. And I'm here tonight to address this nomination. And first of all, before I get into my talking points, I would like to address the windows and mention that driving around town to the local landmarks that are already designated here, starting at the URAN Brazen Head, they have several vinyl windows that exist in that building, and it was nominated. It also, well, let me skip ahead to the Cowhan. The Cowhan doesn't have period doors on the back. That's pre-hung aluminum commercial doors. The El Dorado, which is a pretty credible historic landmark here in Woodland Park, it has many, many vinyl windows and vinyl doors in that building, and it was accepted as a local landmark. The revered Maytag House has an attached garage, which has vinyl garage doors, and there's vinyl windows in the Maytag House, and it was nominated and accepted as a local landmark. The gym, I would call it, of Woodland Park is the Steffa House, one of the founders of Woodland Park, and it has several vinyl windows, and it is a local landmark. The Carroll House has vinyl windows, and it was also accepted as a local landmark. So past practice would suggest that the vinyl windows in the Vaz building shouldn't make any difference. And then moving on to back to the Brazen Head, it also has additions, and David Langley is correct. I have here what the state requirements are, and what David said is exactly right. The addition to a historic building has to be distinguishable from the historic building, so it is not confusing the public to make them think that the addition was part of the historical significance. So the way the Vaz building is now is what is accepted and expected from the State Historical Society. And also on the State Historic Society website, excuse me, let me skim down. Do vinyl windows disqualify a building from being a state historical landmark in Colorado? Well, the answer is, in Colorado, vinyl windows do not automatically disqualify a building from being a state historical landmark. They can affect its eligibility for designation if they undermine the property's historic character, but they do not disqualify a building. Now I would like to move on and address the 3 points that the city requires for historic designation. Number 1, the structure should be at least 50 years old. Well, the Vaz building is 87 years old, and it was constructed in 1939 by John and Clara Vaz using dimensional lumber provided by the Spillman sawmill that was located right across the street from its present location where the current Dinosaur Resource Center is today. That's where all the lumber came from for this building. Number 2, the property is historically significant through one or more of its agricultural design. And my response to that is the Vaz building, in terms of geometry and architectural style, is an irregularly shaped construction that is reminiscent of a right trapezium shape. In the unique shape this building creates a remarkable and distinctive architectural style that is instantly noticeable on Main Street. So to recap, the architectural design is because it's a trapezium design, which is the only one of that shape in all of Main Street and all of Woodland Park. So it's a very unusual building. B, association with a historical event, person, or period. This heritage building belonged to the esteemed Mrs. Clara Vaz. Mrs. Vaz herself is a major figure in the historical chronicles of Woodland Park. And a lot of people currently employed in the administration of Woodland Park aren't aware of what Mrs. Vaz has done, but I know you people are. Would you like me to elaborate on what she's done? Or are you satisfied with her contributions to this city?
My personal opinion is, yeah, we're very familiar with that, but I think from a public record perspective, it would be wise to hit some of those highlights.
Highlight a few.
Mrs. Vaz, and I'm saying this from memory. I didn't, for some reason, didn't think I'd have to rattle them off. Mrs. Vaz, and Karen already mentioned several of them, and they're on your screen. She did things like they would sew mattresses in that building to supply mattresses to the Red Cross during World War II. They sewed mattresses, made mattresses by hand. Mrs. Vaz made arrangements to bring dental professionals up to Woodland Park to treat Woodland Park's poor and needy children, give them teeth and dental care. Mrs. Vaz made arrangements to bring optometrists up to Woodland Park to give the poor and unfortunate children eye exams. Mrs. Vaz, she, again, I'm not prepared to rattle off everything. The city hall, back in those days, the merchants would meet, or the city council, town council would meet in any business that would allow them to meet that particular night. Mrs. Vaz convinced the city to buy the old Oddfellows building that was located on Main Street, and due to her efforts, we got our very first city hall at that time. And then she continued with that building by forming a movie night that was well received by literally hundreds of people would attend on Friday nights. Mrs. Vaz did several other contributions, but I'll skip to her main one. Mrs. Vaz made arrangements and raised the money, and this wasn't mentioned in your staff report. It's her most important contribution, though. She raised the money to buy 12 residential lots right behind us here, or right over to the east of us, that now form Memorial Park. Those were residential lots. South Street that runs through here used to go completely through. And with the construction of the park, they shut South Street down and built the park. And if it wasn't for Mrs. Vaz's efforts in the purchase of those 12 lots, those would be houses today, and instead of a pavilion there and that fireplace and parts of the pond. So Mrs. Vaz was the main propeller of getting Memorial Park established. And all that was conceived in that Vaz building. If you would like any other information, I could take the time to look through my Mrs. Vaz's history that I have in my folder here, but I would have to dig through it and look, but I'm sure you got the drift. Okay, so moving on, back to part B, the association with the historical event. That's Mrs. Vaz there, as I just described. But the building itself, the physical building, possesses historical importance as it served for the venue for numerous meetings where diverse ideas were cultivated, ultimately improving the lives of the entire local community. And all that happened right in this building we're talking about tonight. C, the physical impact and location within the city of Woodland Park. The historic physical impact and location within the city is the fact that during its contributing and significance period, it was the welcoming building, or rather the gateway to Woodland Park. And by that I mean that prior to the expansion of the city limits and the advent of the strip mall design of box stores and other chains now east of the Vaz building, this was the outskirts in the very east end of Woodland Park. So as you journeyed west from Colorado Springs, as soon as you caught sight of the Vaz building, you realized you were finally in Woodland Park. Because back in those days, and I remember when I was a boy, it took an hour to get from downtown Colorado Springs to Woodland Park on a good day. If you got stuck behind a semi or something like that, it would take an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to get to Woodland Park. So when you seen the Vaz building, you thought, oh boy, we finally made it. So that was the gateway to Woodland Park, the Vaz building. D, the potential, and potential's the key word here, the potential to provide important information concerning the history of Woodland Park. Well, this structure does possess the capability to serve as a visitor and education center located directly on Main Street. It has the capacity to serve as an interpretive center, providing a thorough informational setting that aids visitors in comprehending the historical elements of Woodland Park. And as I said, the key word is potential in the city's language. That building has a potential to do all that. 3, and this is the one I left off inadvertently, the structure should have significant original or accurately restored materials that maintain its original historic character. Well, this building has undergone an extension. However, the main structure remains entirely in its original condition, except for the windows, which are acceptable to many other historic landmarks in Woodland Park. So as I look through other departments of Woodland, Woodland has a lot of active committees. They have resolutions and ordinance, and they actually support the nomination of the Vaz building. For example, in Woodland Park's October 2021 comprehensive plan, under preserving our heritage on page 108, it dictates that the HPC, this body I'm talking to right now, will, W-I-L-L, they will protect and preserve the historical and cultural heritage of the city through historical landmark designations. So you are actually tasked with that according to the comprehensive plan of Woodland Park. Now, moving on, Woodland Park, as we all know, is a CLG, a certified local government. The city of Woodland Park, by the State Historic Preservation Office, designated them a CLG, and the mission statement of certified local governments is to seek to encourage and expand local involvement in historic preservation. Again, a certified local government, which Woodland Park is part of, the mission statement says that you will expand local involvement in historic preservation activities. Also, the Main Street program, which Woodland Park is, their mission statement is to coordinate resources and technical assistance for communities seeking to revitalize their historic downtown commercial districts. Colorado Main Street is committed to creating high-quality places and building stronger communities through preservation-based economic development. So as a Main Street community, Woodland Park needs to follow through and do preservation-based economic development. Also on Woodland Park's 2021 comprehensive plan on page 32, it states that the community identity is important to Woodland Park. It goes on to say that visual quality is important to maintaining the small town character and encourages ways to identify the town's architecture and celebrate the heritage of town. So again, that is in your comprehensive plan, that you're supposed to celebrate the heritage of this town. The 2019 Woodland Park Community Placemaking Plan tells of enhancing the town through heritage that celebrates our mountain western character. Excuse me. Moving on, Woodland Park's chapter 2.44 under local historical preservation, protection, and landmark designation. Within this document is section 2.44.010, which states that Woodland Park, and again, this is Woodland Park's own ordinances. It states Woodland Park is to promote the cultural well-being of the community by way of the protection and preservation of the city's historical and cultural heritage through historic landmark designation. So you are tasked, the city of Woodland Park is tasked with, with following through with that and protecting and preserving the city's historical and cultural heritage through historic landmark protection or designations. Woodland Park's Main Street Organization's Facebook page explicitly states that they will, quote, engage the community in historic preservation, downtown revitalization, economic development by promoting a strong business climate. But right on the very front page of Woodland Park's Main Street, they will engage the community in historic preservation. City Ordinance 607-1994, Section 1, 1994 dictates that the city will encourage and establish educational opportunities to increase the appreciation and understanding of the unique heritage of the city. Excuse me for one moment here. So I would say that all those mission statements and all the organizations that Woodland Park belongs to, that they work together with Woodland Park's Historic Preservation Committee and support downtown revitalization while preserving the city's historic character. Isn't that one of the goals of Woodland Park's DDA, to work together with the Woodland Park Historic Preservation Committee, the DDA? I believe it is. The Woodland Park DDA mission, among other things, is dedicated to revitalization and enhancing the downtown district. Its mission is to, among other things, prevent property deterioration and blight, and to improve the appearance, condition, and function of the district. Well, Andrew Wing was doing exactly that when the city issued a notice to vacate. He was doing exactly what the city wanted him to do. So after reading all of the above philosophies by all these different city departments and ordinances, one would believe without a doubt that Woodland Park seems to be very much on board with preserving its historic heritage. To reject this application would be at odds with the many above values of the city of Woodland Park. Woodland Park, according to all of the above that I mentioned, is proactive in regard to historical preservation. And if Woodland Park belongs to all these organizations and take stock and subscribe to their mission statements of these organizations, I would see where Woodland Park would have no trouble at all designating this building as a historic landmark. Unless, of course, Woodland Park simply belongs to these organizations to increase their pool of grant resources, not caring at all about historic preservation. But I hardly doubt that is the case. I'm sure Woodland Park would not go stoop to that level. I'm sure Woodland Park has historic preservation in mind. So with that, I would like to ask if you have any questions. Hearing none,
Hold on.
I do not.
Um, I would like to ask if the owner of the property, Andrew Wing, has anything to add or share in terms of plans or thoughts about the property.
and I would like to mention Andrew, one thing about Andrew and his seemingly disregarding all the questions the city and the county would ask him over the last couple of years. Andrew's family suffered many deaths during this course of time. And Andrew's mother and grandmother and aunts and uncles immigrated here from Vietnam. Andrew was born here. He's a first generation born here. But in their culture, these deaths put everything on hold. And that is the reason why Andrew could not get around to answering things. That building was the least of his concerns during these times of death in his family. The building just was secondary to getting his family moving. The matriarch passed away and on. He had several hardships. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention real quick. So I'm going to let Andrew have the mic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Andrew Wing. I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I want to apologize for everyone for being here as well. Like Steve said in the beginning, the reason why we took over the building in Woodland Park was because my family and my mother used to have a restaurant in West Colorado City. It was called Saigon Grill. And I grew up working in that restaurant every single day, trying to help my mom because it was very difficult to at least hire someone that you could trust during that time. Because as a single mother that raised 3 kids, especially in a restaurant, because my mom always told me, oh, Andy, if I work inside the kitchen and I watch the kitchen staff, the people take the tickets and they steal money from the front. But if she goes into the front and watches the people up front, the kitchen starts taking food out the back. So it was never a win-win situation. But fast forward from everything that happened with my mom in the restaurant, that was one of the foundations that allow us today to be able to branch out into Woodland Park. And one of the most important things that we wanted to move out to Woodland Park was because not only of the history and the culture here, it was an area where you could call home. It was a place where you can really build a business and live the American dream. Well, what happened was that during the time when we got the funding and everything, my grandma passed away in 2019. And my grandma was honestly, she was the bedrock of the family. She was the compass of basically the passion behind my mother and her ability to do restaurants and pursue business. But the problem was that we had an obligation to fulfill because we got under contract with Abram Edwards, the previous owner that owned the building prior to us. And his vision was always to have something that was beautiful in Woodland Park, something that you would be proud to say, this is what we have to offer in Woodland Park. And I remember that day because that day was when he sold me the building, and we did all the paperwork and we took care of it. And I told him that I'll do what I can. I promised him to make something beautiful in Woodland Park. But what happened was that going back to my mom's restaurant, she was a she believed in family, she believed in friends, she believed in the support of the community, and she really believed to support the community back. That was one of my mom's strengths that she always had. Because regardless of what happens, she said that during the time when we had our business, sometimes, honestly, there would be hiccups here and there. And sometimes food took 2 hours to get out, but our customers stayed and they ate and they still paid for their food. And my mom remembered this because the contractor that we did for the contracting, he was a customer for my mom for over 15 years. So we as a family felt not obligated, but of course, the best way to help anybody in your community is to give the opportunity for the community to grow. Sadly, that's why we're here today, is because after that incident, the contractor took over $270,000 and then he just left. So not only did we lose one of our parents, but we also lost funding. And during that time, we were living in unprecedented times because that's when COVID started and we did not know what was going on. No, nobody did. So that was one of the reasons why he was able to take that much, was because during those times, everyone had to wear masks. They were technically considered essential workers. And we believed, under our understanding, that he was going to fulfill his promise that he made us. Now, after all that said and done, we did go to court, we did get a judgment, but the lawyer that we talked to, they said, Andrew, it's his first business. He already filed for bankruptcy. If you try to go after him or try to get money, it's just like suing a rock. You can't make a rock bleed. So, okay. And I'm not trying to, I know that each and every one of us has the same background. We all come from very strong, prideful families that tells us to, if hardship comes our way, just pick us up from the bootstraps and we keep on going forward. And that's how my mom always taught every one of us. But after my grandma passed away, a couple of years later, my stepdad contracted cancer. And then he had cancer in his lung, and then it metastasized. And then he passed away. So during these years, it's not, we are not trying to push off or not try to get that building back up to its potential glory. It's just that our family just has been put in a position where it's nearly impossible to do anything really fast, and try to navigate that type of turmoil is very, very difficult for us. But long story short, I do want to let everyone know that knowing the concerns and the position that the city is in, we fully understand and aware currently of the wishes and the well-being of what we need to get that building to. And moving forward, we, as you can see of every single time I came up for these meetings, we are very determined to support in any way, shape we can to get this building back to its former glory. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we we're here today is to ask for this acceptance for the historic preservation for the building. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Wing?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Wing, thank you very much. Appreciate you explaining things and coming forward. And I'd like to express on behalf of the committee, you're expressing your commitment, not just to the community, but to the historical background and the history of this particular piece of property. And as a private property owner, it is a challenge to be able to do things. And this building is extremely visible with where it's located. And so that's been an unfortunate thing that has brought some of this on, I do believe. Because certainly this building is not the only building in Woodland Park that needs attention. It just happens that this one sits in a very visible location. But thank you for taking this on, and thank you for the application and giving us an opportunity as a committee to consider the local designation. I think that's something that we are all about, as Mr. Plute explained as well, and what we are indeed charged with in this community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
All right. So is there anything else from the public? Comments? Anybody that would like to come up and say anything? Steve, do you have something else? Okay.
Steve Plute again. This nomination, if accepted, will open the doors for SHF grants. And Andrew desperately needs these grants, or not desperately, that's the wrong word. Andrew really could use these grants after being bilked out of $270,000 that's not recoverable. So if this application is accepted, then the next step is to start applying for grants to help with the financial obligations of this building.
So SHF being
State Historical Funds.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. With that, I guess if there's no further comments, I guess we close the public hearing. And I guess I would ask for discussion amongst comments. Oh, excuse me. Okay, we'll open the public hearing back up. That's okay.
Very quickly, I'm Mike Bryant. I'm a board member of the Ute Pass Historical Society. And we've discussed this in our board meetings, and we are fully behind Andrew's attempt to restore the building and Steve's attempt to get it landmark designation.
Thank you. Thank you. Since we've exhausted bodies in the room, unless Amy, you have something that you want to add, then we'll close the public hearing.
And there's no one online that would.
And there's no one online. Okay, very good. Comments?
No comments. I'm ready.
Are you in favor?
I am in favor of moving and accepting the application for the historic designation,
Local landmark.
local
Okay.
landmark designation.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Likewise, yes.
Likewise?
Mhm.
Okay, I would like to just go on the record that as an organization, we have been supportive of this local landmark for quite a while and have had it on our agenda and have been very interested in wanting to see this building preserved. And so we've watched the evolution of Mr. Wing and his family go through this process to the point that it is today. And it makes us, I think, collectively very glad to see this effort and to see the possibility that we can add another local landmark and the advantages and opportunity that potentially it brings for additional funding to restore the building. Since it is a very unique building and it's when things are gone, they're gone. So I'll just make that comment and there's no recovering that. And there is a lot of hidden opportunity there. And as Mr. Plute said, there are documents for the city of Woodland Park in our long-range plans and and a variety of plans where we have discussed what we could do to maintain any history in our community. And there are few buildings left. There are few opportunities, if any, anymore. And this is an opportunity, in my opinion. So with that, if one of you gentlemen would like to make a motion, unless there's anything else.
I so move to make the motion to accept the application for historic recognition by Mr. Wing.
Local landmark.
Local landmark designation.
Okay.
I agree. In my mind, I'm not worried about the vinyl windows. Okay, I'm not worried about the addition to the back. The integrity facing the highway, I would like to see it in my mind as a welcome place with all those people
Larry?
stopping at the light.
I apologize. I just got a note that I can barely hear you. So
I'm
again, put your
barely
face in the
hearing.
microphone.
I have to
please.
go back to which part?
Probably the beginning.
In the beginning, I so move to accept the application of Mr. Wing.
Get the microphone like really close to you, please.
Really close.
Really, that's awesome right there. Thank you.
Back, go again.
Please.
I so move to accept Mr. Wing's application for historic recognition of the Voss Building as a local landmark. Minus no questions about the vinyl windows. I have no problems with the addition on the side. I would like to see it as a welcome center to Woodland Park as these people stop at the light. Yes, it has the character of no other building in the city. Probably no other building in the state has that design. And I still can see Mrs. Voss coming out and welcoming guests in her shop. And you would say, do you have this? And Mrs. Voss would say, give me a couple minutes and I will find it, which she did. She had that heritage and very pleasant human being to be in the area. And there's classic photos of her in town in the 40s walking through town. I so moved to accept the application
Thank you, Larry.
with no qualifications at all.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Anybody opposed?
anybody, anybody opposed? We all said aye. We're
Okay.
good.
Just making sure that's very clear.
You want to
Thank
do a
you.
roll call? Would that be better?
I'm good at this point, but just
You're good? Okay.
because
we had
your folks
three
are pretty
distinct
quiet
yeses.
and voices aren't always distinguishable,
Okay.
so.
So we're good. All right. So having said that, with the committee that we have here today, I would actually entertain adjourning the meeting at this point in time and not continuing with the rest this month. Is that?
Is there anything pressing down the list?
I'd like to just briefly run by the poster.
Yes, okay,
Concept,
okay.
and leave Rosette and some markups and editing to receive comments from the committee anytime you like.
You're ready for inputs and comments then on the
I'm
poster?
ready for it, but we don't need to take my time for the meeting because it is getting late.
Well, we can do this. If that helps keep that project moving, let's not,
That would.
yes, let's keep the project moving.
Well,
Good.
there's a couple options. One is to actually engage in a discussion about it. The other one is for folks to take it and look at it and then come back prepared to discuss it. So those are,
But that'll be a month later.
it will, but just, you've got options there.
Can you wait a month or would you like in?
I just have.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's just take a couple minutes and take a look.
Just take a minute
See where
to
you're
it,
at.
little explanation and 2 points that I weighed in my mind for that. That is the title, the information came from carrying on with the UPass Historical Society, the associated video going on with that.
Yeah,
They provided great information, very much thanks to them. But we decided, I took it from the staff, from my staff input to not use the same title because it appears that we're doing the same thing. And I do not have authorization for that. So I came up with the title this morning of Brave and Adventurous Women 2026. That is, so that's part of where it came from. The photos you see on the side, on the border side, is those are AI enhanced in making them color. But were powerful, beautiful pictures, and I wanted to offer them. They're not copies of historical photos. The body in the
Dave?
middle is just copies of historical black and
you
white.
need him closer to the mic
Or
too.
the mic closer to him, yeah.
Yeah.
Two things to call your attention to: the title that I just made up to not confuse it with the efforts of the ongoing video of the same
The document,
women.
right?
The documentary, thank you. And that the color photos on the side are AI enhanced images that I found to be so cool, I couldn't resist offering that on the poster. So that was the point of decision making for me. Otherwise, the little
Just
pencil
one
notes.
question.
Hmm?
Why does the dial have an E on one and
Oh.
not E on the
I
other?
was scribbling fast so I could inform you guys from the meeting 5 minutes before the meeting.
Is it supposed to have an E or not?
Yes,
E on the
let's
end.
take it E.
Okay.
So,
Good.
feel free to edit. It is not complete, but do feel free to edit. Because, it's easy in the, pressure of things to not look back.
Okay, so do you want us, the verbiage that's on for each of the women down below,
Yes,
that came from the Historical Society with a,
it was
So-
it was a little synopsis type of it. I need to go through it, make sure it's complete. And that really could use editing or input or anything that,
Amy, I'm gonna
Significant.
offer you a copy of this so that you can take a look at it with your editing skills, if you don't mind. Okay, so we'll have Amy as well. Take a look. So on purpose, you don't want to have the same name that UPHS is documentary on the women.
that was my assumption of being correct, of not confusing that that we're the same thing. So
Well,
that's the reason I bring it up.
okay, however, it's the same 5 women that the documentary are
But
on.
it is. So this is not documentary, but it is the same subject. So was my input to think, well, I don't know that that's quite appropriate to create a copyright infringement, if you will.
Okay,
And so if there's some authorization to say to use the same title, we could. That's why I bring the subject up.
okay. Yes,
Steve, can you, for the recording, can you please come to the podium?
because a lot of this information came from Steve, I believe, for the.
Steve Plute again.
Yeah.
Yeah, in regard to what David just said about copyrights and stuff, all of those stories were composed by me. So if it matters, I don't know legalities, but you definitely have my permission to use any of that stuff.
Much appreciated.
Oh.
A question for you, does that go through as far as the title too? The documentary title was I'm not sure I'm phrasing that now. You probably know exactly what it is.
And I do not, I can't recall it. I did not come up with the title of the movie.
Yeah, I think that was the director that probably.
Yeah, Rob
Yeah, that Rob
Rob
came up with
come
that.
up with
So
that.
what was the title, guys?
In the bottom
Something-
right-hand
something wi-
corner over here says Wonder Women of the,
That's,
That's it. That's it. Wonder Woman of the Peak. Is that what you said?
yes,
Yeah.
it's in the bottom right, the box on the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
so my question is, my people working on the computer on this started to put that down, and I said, I don't think that's appropriate. So if if you approve, we'll leave it as a separate title and not to avoid that confusion.
Well, I think the fact you have it in the box back down here in the bottom right kind of ties it all together because it's something that's being done this year. And I believe they want to have the documentary ready to present at the end of the year, November, December timeframe. Part of the Historical Society's 50th anniversary. So I think that's the intent anyway, gentlemen. So I like it. I don't know, comments?
I like it. You did a good job.
Yes.
I mean, some of the writing in some
Oh,
of
I've
the
got it.
pieces and refining so that it can be a little more legible.
Yeah, the boxes use it as a point of description is pretty important, but that's not, well, needs some work. It's not quite formatted and could use some more.
Steve, have you had an opportunity to see this? Poster?
The poster, no, I have not.
Okay, so we should bounce it off of Steve as well. Karen, anything pops up to you?
No, I appreciate what Mr. Langley's saying about it, being a pretty good work product at this point, but needing some additional refinement. So it's not his usual polish yet.
No, not yet. It's definite, but I think the layout and the pictures and the way you did it and the AI enhancements and bringing the color and I think it's pretty cool. And it's different than previous
Mhm.
posters as well, which is cool. So,
Yes,
any other comments? Eric?
I think it's great.
Okay, Larry?
No comments.
All right. So if you take a look at it.
This is fabulous. This is excellent.
Okay, so if you would study it as well, and Amy, please take a
Yes,
good
please.
hard look at it too and give some feedback to Dave.
In I'm gonna be gone for a few days, so it'll get into later next week. We'll distribute the corrected piece on this for your continuing editing.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, is there anything else anybody would like to bring up? If not, we're adjourned
Bill?
till next meeting will be first Wednesday of Tuesday
Oops, hang on.
of August, 4th, I believe. Is that a true statement?
Yes, Tuesday, August 4th at 4:30.
All right,
August 4th.
August 4th. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Wow. See what your class says. Thanks, Lori.
Give me a second.